So the Mavs just lost one of the more embarrassing games of the season to a really, really bad Utah Jazz team that is not intending to contend or in a position to contend this season. Now, the Jazz, in my estimation, are one of the three worst teams in basketball probably right now, and this is an unacceptable loss in a lot of ways. As a Mavs fan, I am beyond exasperated with this team right now, and honestly beyond exasperated with Luka. Despite his numbers looking incredible on the surface, 37 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, and he's been his typical self offensively for the most part, despite his efficiency being a little bit down this year. He's still averaging almost 30 a game on 8 rebounds, 8 assists. It's just the efficiency's been down. His 3-point shooting hasn't been good, and his defense has been bad. And I think there's injury issues with Luka. It's weird that his knee bleeds every single game, even after the entire offseason. But it's been a very exasperating season so far for the Mavs, as they're 5-7 now. 1-4 on the road, and like 10th or 11th or 12th in the West right now, in a very, very deep stacked West. Yeah, they are currently 12th in the West. So not the way they want to start the season. Now, obviously, it's not panic time right now. It's very early in the year. I don't really expect the Mavs to have a long season. I think this team will get things figured out. But this is certainly not the start that I expected from the Mavs, and certainly not the execution that I wanted to see from them tonight against the Jazz. This should have been a game, even on the road in Utah, that you win by 15 or 20 points and are able to comfortably walk out of there with a positive win. Yes, Kyrie was out. Yes, PJ Washington is out, but that's not a big enough excuse to lose this game, especially in the manner in which they did, because it was a bad game in a lot of ways. But then the fourth quarter, I mean, they went from down 16 to fighting themselves all the way back into the game, and I believe taking the lead at one point potentially. And Luka just has the biggest defensive lapse ever on the last offensive possession for the Jazz, and gives up the easiest, most wide open dunk in the world to John Collins for no reason whatsoever, who, by the way, had 28 points and 9 rebounds tonight. Just honestly pretty unacceptable from Luka defensively. And here's the thing, y'all. I watch the Mavs more than almost anybody. They are my favorite team. I watch pretty much every single game. If I don't watch the whole game, I'm at least watching parts of the game or highlights or whatever. And I follow this team very, very in depth. And Luka, in my opinion, is a very solid defender when he wants to be. He is a high impact defender who gets a lot of deflections, can be in the right place at the right time a lot of times when he is locked in on the defensive end of the court. The problem is that is a very, very big if for him as a player, is whether or not he is going to be locked in on the defensive end of the court. And he has had a few lapses already this year defensively where you're just like, what are you doing? I mean, get your head on straight. He is one of the five best players in the sport, and a slow start to this season does not change that. But he does things at times that are just unacceptable from a player of his caliber. You just have to play a little bit more locked in. He's got to be more focused, especially in important moments in games. I get that he's going to rest on defense at times. I get that he's not 100% healthy, but he hasn't been healthy since the playoffs last year. Like, I don't know what you want at this point. You got to play defense when there's 20 seconds left in the game. You cannot let John Collins just walk behind you and get a wide open dunk because you're not paying attention. It's unacceptable. It can happen. And it's just unbelievably exasperating to start the season. And again, I don't think this team is in a terrible situation. I mean, they lost their last 3 games before tonight by a total of, I believe, 6 points. Every loss this season has been a very competitive, close game, and close games against good teams. I mean, they lost the Warriors, Nuggets, and Suns, but could have won all 3 of those games. It's not like they're out here playing terrible, terrible basketball and getting blown out. I'd be a lot more concerned if they were. But it's the small details that are really, really important if you want to be able to make a run like they did last season in the Western Conference, especially, which is so deep and so stacked. And you don't want to fall behind the 8 ball. And 5-7 is not an unrecoverable situation whatsoever. They're going to be okay. But this is the type of win against one of the few teams in the Western Conference that actually isn't very good that you need to get, plain and simple. And unfortunately, it just, in a loaded Western Conference, it's never going to be easy. And so when you do get opportunities for quote unquote gimme games, you got to take advantage of them. And they've just done such a poor job of that so far this season. It's been really, really frustrating to see them not capitalize on opportunities. I mean, they were up 7 with 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left against the Warriors on, was that Monday night or Tuesday night earlier this week? I think that was Tuesday night. And blew that lead, and Steph played incredible. Give Steph all the shout out in the world. But Luka down the stretch, the decision-making offensively was atrocious. It was bad. He took bad shots. He didn't play smart. He's had a few late game, very poor shot selection type decisions to start the season. And It's just been so frustrating to watch as a Mavs fan, because this is a team that's 5-7 and very, very easily could be 8-4, even 9-3. Multiple of their losses have been close, stupid. Really, every single one of their last 4 losses have been close losses that they probably shouldn't have lost. And it's just beyond frustrating to watch on a night-to-night basis to this point in the year. Now, I think they're going to be fine. I think they have one of the better center duos in the league. Now, Derek Lively got into big foul trouble tonight and only played 17 minutes, but I think with Gafford and Lively, they're totally fine at the center position. It's one of the better center rotations in the league. Both of those guys are very, very good. A healthy Kyrie, PJ Washington definitely would help this team. I mean, tonight they started Maxi Kleber at the 4. He didn't play a ton, though. Najee Marshall played most of the game. And I think Najee Marshall, after a slow start, has looked really good the last couple of games. I like what I've seen out of Quentin Grimes. I think Jaden Hardy, Spencer Dinwiddie, guys like that, coming off the bench are good impact players, and Najee's not hitting threes, but he's going to start to hit more shots. And I'm not too worried about this team. They got really good centers. They got good power forwards in PJ Washington and Najee Marshall, neither of whom are uber high percentage 3-point shooters, but can get the job done and are versatile defensive guys who can put the ball on the floor a little bit as well. And look, I like this team. I like the roster. On paper, it sets up really, really well to be a very competitive roster in the Western Conference and one of the better teams in the league. But the execution just quite simply has to be better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's nothing else to say other than that, in all honesty, about this team to this point in the season. And I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's Luka just being lazy. I think that's a big part of it. But the season is far from unrecoverable. It's not panic time. It's just frustrating to watch as a fan of a team, and I think that's something that y'all have probably all experienced at times throughout your basketball watching and sports watching life, is just watching your team underperform and under-execute in big moments. And trust me, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, I've lived with it my entire life. But seeing the Mavs do it to start the season is certainly frustrating, because games like the Warriors, the Nuggets, the Suns, those are the types of games that could be big when it comes to seeding later this year. A game like tonight, a gimme game. When you lose a gimme game, that can matter late in the season, because this is a team that wants a top 3 or 4 seed. And if they wind up having to go on the road as a 6 seed in the first round, or even falling into the play-in in a loaded Western Conference, it can make things significantly tough for a team that is expected to and put in a situation to contend this season. That is going to be much harder to do if they don't get their stuff together, because the Western Conference is really, really hard, man. I can't say it enough. There are so many good teams in the Western Conference, especially with the way that teams like the Warriors and Lakers have elevated their play this season. It's going to be it's going to be an absolute dogfight, plain and simple, in the Western Conference. And the Mavs just quite simply are going to have to be better than they have been to this point this season if they want to contend in the West. That's the end of story, plain and simple. And it's been exasperating to watch as a fan. So I hope y'all did enjoy the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.